Imagine a choice so cruel it shatters the very laws of nature. Imagine a father so consumed by greed and the paranoia of power that he would trade the lives of 12 sons for a single golden crown. This is not just a story of magic and curses. It is a testament to the endurance of bloodlines, the crushing weight of silence, and a sister's love that defied death itself. Deep within the annals of the Brothers Grimm lies a tale often forgotten. Yet it holds the darkest shadows and the brightest lights of human emotion. Gather around, for the storm is coming. This is the legend of the 12 brothers. Long ago, in a kingdom where the skies were perpetually gray, there lived a king whose heart was as cold as the stone walls of his castle. To his subjects he was a ruler. To his family he was a monster. He had 12 sons, 12 strong, spirited boys who filled the halls with laughter. But the king did not hear laughter. He heard threats. He consulted the stars, and a dark prophecy took root in his mind. If his 13th child were a girl, she would inherit everything, and his 12 sons must die to clear her path to the throne. The queen, a woman of gentle soul but broken spirit, lived in terror. Day after day, she watched the king sharpen his resolve. One stormy night, as thunder shook the foundations of the palace, she could bear it no longer. She took her youngest son, Benjamin, aside. With trembling hands, she gave him a golden key and a terrible warning. She told him of the king's decree. She told him that a flag would be raised on the highest tower when the child was born. If it was white, they were safe. But if it was red, red meant blood. Red meant death. For 12 days the brothers hid in the forest, their eyes glued to the distant castle tower. They prayed to the old gods and the new. But on the 13th morning, as the sun struggled to pierce the mist, a flag rose. It was not white. It was red, stark and bloody against the pale sky. The king had sentenced his own sons to death. Betrayed by their father, hunted by their own blood, the 12 brothers swore a vow of vengeance against the girl who had unknowingly cost them their home. They fled deeper into the enchanted forest, a place where the trees whispered secrets and time moved differently. There they vanished from the world of men, becoming ghosts in their own kingdom. 10 years passed. The seasons turned, and the baby girl grew into a princess named Elara. She was beautiful, with a heart of gold and a star on her forehead, but she grew up in a castle filled with silence. She knew nothing of her brothers. She believed she was the only child, until one fateful day, curiosity led her to a secret chamber. There, hidden beneath layers of dust and forgotten memories, she found 12 small shirts. They were too small for a man, too rough for a noble. She brought them to her mother, and the floodgates of the past burst open. The queen wept as she told Elara the truth. The price of her existence was the exile of 12 innocent souls. Elara's heart broke, not for herself, but for the brothers she never knew. She realized that her life was built on a foundation of tragedy. In that moment, the pampered princess died, and a heroine was born. She packed a simple bag, took the 12 shirts, and walked out of the castle gates. She left behind the silk and the safety, venturing into the dark, tangled woods with a singular promise on her lips. I will find you, or I will die trying. The enchanted forest was a labyrinth of shadows and light. For days Elara wandered, hungry and exhausted, guided only by hope. Finally, she stumbled upon a small, abandoned cottage deep in the wild. Inside, she found 12 beds, 12 plates, and a sense of familiarity that tugged at her soul. She cleaned the hearth, cooked a warm meal, and exhausted from her journey, fell asleep in the smallest bed. When the 12 brothers returned from their hunt, hardened by years of survival, they were stunned. Who was this intruder? The anger of the past flared up. They had sworn to kill the girl who displaced them. But Benjamin, the youngest, saw the star on her forehead. He saw the shirt she clutched even in sleep. Brothers, look, he whispered. It is her. But she is not our enemy. She is our sister. The reunion was not one of bloodshed, but of tears. Elara woke to find herself surrounded by 12 tall warriors. Fear turned to joy as they realized the bond of blood was stronger than the king's curse. For a brief, shining moment, they were a family again. They lived in harmony, the cottage filled with the laughter that had been stolen from them a decade ago. It seemed as though happily ever after was within reach. But fairy tales are rarely so kind. The forest gives, but it also takes. Adjacent to their cottage lay a garden of unearthly beauty, where 12 white lilies glowed with a spectral light. Elara, wishing to give a gift to her brothers, plucked the flowers. She did not know that these were not ordinary blooms. They were the life force of the brothers, bound to the earth by ancient magic. The moment the stems snapped, the sky turned black. A thunderclap shook the ground, and before Elara's horrified eyes, her brothers twisted and shifted. Their human forms dissolved into feathers and shadows. In an instant, 12 magnificent ravens screeched into the stormy sky, flying away into the unknown. The cottage vanished. Elara was left alone in the howling wind, the wilted flowers in her hand, the weight of her mistake crushing her soul. Out of the shadows stepped an old fairy, the guardian of the woods. Her voice was like dry leaves skittering on stone. She told Elara there was only one way to break the curse, but the price would be terrible. To save them, the fairy said, you must be dumb for 7 years. You cannot speak. You cannot laugh. If a single word leaves your lips, even in the last hour of the 7th year, your brothers will die instantly. 7 years. A lifetime of silence. But Elara nodded. She climbed a high tree to be safe from predators and began her penance. She spun thread from starflowers and nettles, sewing 12 new shirts to replace the ones she had found. Her fingers bled, her body grew thin, but her will was iron. Seasons changed. Winter snows covered her, summer suns scorched her, yet she sat sewing and silent. It was there that a young king from a neighboring land found her. He was hunting, and when he saw the beautiful silent maiden in the tree, he fell instantly in love. He saw a nobility in her silence, a mystery in her eyes. He brought her back to his castle and made her his queen. For a time Elara was safe. The king adored her. But the court was a nest of vipers, and the most venomous of all was the king's mother. The dowager queen hated Elara. She saw the girl's silence not as a virtue, but as a sign of witchcraft. Why does she not speak? The old woman hissed. What demon is she hiding? Elara could not defend herself. She could not explain her lineage, her mission, or her love. She could only sew. Years passed and the silence held. But the wickedness of the dowager queen grew. When Elara gave birth to her first child, the old woman stole the baby in the dead of night and smeared the blood of a chicken on Elara's sleeping mouth. In the morning, she screamed to the court that the queen was an ogress, a monster who had eaten her own child. The king was horrified. He wanted to believe his wife, but the evidence was painted in red on her lips. Still Elara said nothing. She looked at her husband with pleading, tear-filled eyes, but her vow bound her tongue. She endured the accusations, the hatred of the people, and the grief of losing her child, all to save her brothers. The tragedy repeated itself. A second child stolen. A second accusation. The king's love began to waver under the weight of the horror, yet he spared her life. But when the third child disappeared, the court rose up in fury. They demanded justice. The king, broken and weeping, had no choice but to sign the death warrant. The queen was sentenced to burn at the stake. The day of the execution arrived. It was the very last day of the 7th year. The sky was gray and heavy, mirroring the despair of the kingdom. Elara was led to the pyre in the town square. She carried nothing but the 12 shirts she had sewn for 7 years. The crowd jeered and threw stones, calling her a witch, a monster. She was tied to the wooden stake. The executioner approached with a torch. The flames caught the dry wood, licking hungrily at her feet. The heat rose, suffocating and intense.
Look at the kingdom,
the king
my
watched
king.
from his balcony,
All
turning his
yours,
face away in
and yet
agony.
you weep.
Elara looked up at the sky. She felt the fire singeing her dress. She knew she was about to die. But even in the face of death, she did not scream. She did not beg. She counted the seconds in her mind, praying that her silence had been enough. Suddenly, a sound tore through the air. Not the crackle of fire, but the rush of wind. High above, 12 black specks appeared in the clouds. They dove with the speed of lightning. The crowd gasped as 12 giant ravens swooped down into the square. They did not attack the people. They attacked the fire. With powerful beats of their wings, they whipped up a gale that extinguished the flames, scattering sparks and smoke into the wind. The ravens landed around the pyre. And then the clock struck the final hour. A blinding light erupted from the birds. Feathers turned to skin, beaks to lips, wings to arms. Standing amidst the smoke were 12 handsome princes. They were the brothers returned. Benjamin, the youngest, rushed to the stake and cut Elara loose. She fell into his arms, weak, scorched, but alive. For the first time in 7 years, Elara opened her mouth. Her voice was raspy and used, but it rang out with the clarity of truth. "I am innocent," she whispered, "and my brothers are saved." The brothers turned to the king and the court. They revealed the wicked mother-in-law's treachery. They commanded the guards to search her chambers, where the 3 stolen children were found, safe and hidden away. The truth, suppressed for so long, finally burst forth like the sun after a long winter. The wicked mother was seized and taken away to face her own justice. The king, overcome with remorse and joy, fell to his knees before Elara, begging for her forgiveness. She looked at him and then at her brothers and finally at her children. She smiled, and that smile healed the wounds of a decade. The curse was broken, not by magic wands or potions, but by the sheer unyielding power of endurance. In the end, the family was whole. The 12 brothers stood tall, their shirts transforming into royal capes, though Benjamin's shirt was missing a sleeve, leaving him with a swan's wing for an arm, a permanent reminder of his sister's sacrifice. The tale of the 12 brothers reminds us that words are powerful, but silence can be stronger. It teaches us that love is not just a feeling, but an action. A willingness to walk through fire, to endure the darkness, and to hold on to hope when all seems lost. And so, under the golden sun of a restored kingdom, they lived, bound not by the chains of a curse, but by the unbreakable threads of love. And if you listen closely to the wind in the trees, you can still hear the echo of their victory. A song of resilience that will never fade.